Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to adjust my screen just a bit before people pop in here. Okay, I hope that's okay. I try to keep it from looking too busy in the background there. Thank you so much for coming in for an A-lister show today. We're going to talk a little bit about Etsy and that wonderful platform that's been out for what, 15 years maybe? I know it's been over a decade, and I've been on there about that, just about that time. And it's a very, very prolific platform. It really is, and it's quite burgeoning. It's been growing for many decades, for like I said, for a decade at least. And it's even publicly traded. So by no means is it faltering in any way. It's a very, very lucrative platform for those of us who can conquer it. And it's not easy. It doesn't always perform the way we'd like it. Sometimes we go on eBay and we're so happy to have that one sale, and we feel like everything's going to be like eBay, and it's not. Nothing is like eBay. They're all different. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I appreciate you being here. Guys, that's this and that there. That's Kathleen. She also does content. Be sure and check her out. She's been a little slow start with some of the videos, but she's been busy and became a grandmother for the first time. So all the good wishes for her that. And I hope she gives us some more wonderful videos. She's got a really, really wonderful ambiance about her videos, and I really enjoy them. You should go check them out. But today on A-Listers, we talk a lot about reselling. We have been talking about different platforms. We've always been stressing the 4 tenets of selling: the product, the price, the placement, and the promotion. And in this case, it's going to be Etsy. How many of y'all actually sell on Etsy or have tried it and quit? I know a lot of people have quit, and I will tell you my story is a little different. I was doing eBay for probably about 5 years when my son suggested that I do Etsy. I had never even heard of it. So it was kind of a hipster mecca, I guess. A lot of people were going on there for organic type of, I don't know, for an organic type of vibe. A lot of things were being handmade, leather goods, handmade, wood items, handmade. You could find even your wedding dress on there, handmade, just wonderful ambiance about it. So people were drawn to it for that. And he told me, Mom, you should try Etsy for your handmade knits, for your hand knit items. So I got on there and I put my beautiful scarves. I consider them beautiful. I put a lot of work into them. This is one that I put, well, similar. So I do a lot of scarves, but I like to do different things to them. You know, this is not your typical scarf. So I put things like a denim fringe on mine, and I do crazy colors, and I combine crazy yarns, and I did well. I really did. They sold well. And that's, like I said, what it was kind of founded on was handmade items, but they're supposed to be handmade by you. Look at that beautiful popcorn stitch. This stuff is so much work, and I love doing it. And you know, you really have to enjoy, if you do handmade things, you have to enjoy the process, because if you're looking for an instant moneymaker, this is not going to be it. Unless people really do appreciate and know what goes into handmade items, know that you're not going to be laboring through all of this to make a really, really big dollar. But they will pay you good money if you ask for it, right? And if they understand the process of a knitted item, and if people want that, because believe me, I think a lot of the millennials are really going back to basics on things like that. It's so funny, but they're very different in other ways, and digital everything, right? But they love their handmade items. My daughter-in-law, I think she even ordered her bridesmaids dresses on there. So it's really a wonderful place. And then I also did this one. Love this type of stuff. So all of this sold really well for me. Another thing that I like to do was the upcycle thing on there. So I picked out this from a jewelry jar the other day. Remember I told you this is so Etsy, because they do things like that. They'll put the leather. This is real leather. They'll put a nice little sentiment on it. This is something about the rain, and just a really cute little sentiment on there, the little umbrella. But what I would do, I would find these leather bands, and I would get rubber stamps, And I had different ones, like with Frida Kahlo and all of these, you know, more hip type themes on them. These are little ballerinas. And I would stamp them on the leather. I would stamp them on bags. I had, like, if I had this bag in satin, I did a wonderful theme in Oriental Asian. So I did the yin yang and the fish and some geishas and just really pretty things. And I sold them for like $50, and they were just plain, you know, the kind you find at the Goodwill for $1 or $2, but as long as they were clean. And I sold some of those as well. So that kind of stuff did really well for me. And then after I got my feet wet with that, I started with the vintage jewelry. And I just sold a Jelly Belly brooch on there for $120. And that was a Jelly Belly from Coro. And someone had mentioned, I know I've seen people talk about it many times, and they've said, oh, it's got to be Trifari to be a Coro and so forth and so on. But a very astute subscriber told me, no, it does not have to be a Trifari. It has to be a clear little glass on the figure or whatever. This was a cat. And then she informed me that definitely the feline that I had was very sought after. So I sold it within a day or two. I think that same day it sold for $120. I didn't even think about putting it on eBay. For some reason, the very first thought to my mind was Etsy. This is where people go, again, for that organic, for that. It's so interesting, though, how we're all moving forward, and millennials and all of that, moving forward so digitally, so, I don't know, kind of in a different direction of other generations, right? But yet they harken back. They harken back to the earlier Mad Men era, where I guess maybe it's a juxtaposition to today or something, because a lot of people are dressing in this way. There's the whole tiki culture. There's the, just put in mid-century in Instagram, and you will see people that are dying to get a mid-century lamp. You know, the jewelry, the what were we saying the other day? Miss Cleaver, right? I forgot her first name, but, you know, she would dress in that pretty little cotton dress and some pearl earrings. That is a thing, and it will sell for you on Etsy. So that's a wonderful thing to remember about Etsy, that there is a certain type of customer that goes there. And then there's the collector, the serious collector, like the Coro brooch that I was telling you. My astute subscriber said that the feline was very sought after. And sure enough, I didn't hesitate to put $120 on it, and it sold. And I did not even think about putting it on eBay. Let me greet a couple of people that have popped in. Thank you guys so much. Please remember to hit that thumbs up if you would. It looks like Lucy Bustamante's here, Norma as well, Catherine, Sanja, Anita, thanks for being here, Carolyn, and Susan Gill, Paula B. And let me go back up the top. Walter Smith is here, MLA Creations. Thank you, guys. Lazy Bones. And, of course, I said hello to Kathleen. Nadine is here, Carolyn. Granny Josie, how are you doing today? I hope you're well. Leslie Bull as well. So, yeah, it's very, very interesting. June Cleaver, that's her name. June Cleaver. So people really do want that. And I know I live here. I think I've told you guys before, I live in Houston, and I've told you about the place that's right in front of my favorite Salvation Army that is called, I think, Mid-Century or Mid-Mod or something like that. And I would see the things at the Salvation Army, the little tables and sofas and things, and they would have them like the next week in their showroom for 3-4 times the price that they got them for at the Salvation Army. And that's the kind of customer that you will find on Etsy. So it's a wonderful platform. Don't dismiss it, but know this, that people used to talk about the Etsy aesthetic, and that aesthetic is kind of a beige background. It's like people almost want to have a look to their store. I don't really have the time to bother with that. I just kind of put up the items. I put them in my own way. If I have a Southwest turquoise item, I'll get a Ralph Lauren skirt with some sarape looking colors, and I'll put that. That's just me. But I know a lot of people, that's what they really adhere to. So they like that beige background. They like for things to look aesthetically pleasing in the photos in the store, because you really are promoting your shop. So they call it a shop over there. And they ask for a little bio. It doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. It only helps for you to put a little bio. Say that you're a retired teacher, or that you hunt for this and hunt for that. And people want to get to know you that way. And I have people there that I follow, and I've been following for many years. And I buy from them because I love the things that they put out. You know, I know that if I'm looking for a certain turquoise ring or copper, that's where I'm going to check. First of all, they don't overcharge for their prices. So that's a misleading that's a misconception if you think that you'll always get top dollar on Etsy versus eBay. I think if you have the product, you're going to get top dollar wherever you put it. If I would have put that Jelly Belly on eBay, I know I would have gotten $120 as well. I really do. I just felt like, you know, this is the first place I'm going to put it in. And then when I have another day or two, I'll put it on eBay or whatnot. But it's not always the case. So be sure and understand that about Etsy. It is definitely a place you want to put your things that are vintage, but don't think that it's the only place. But it is definitely got its own little following. Some people have had this notion about eBay, and they still have it. They don't trust it. They think that people are going to scam you there. They think that you can't sell anything expensive there. When I was at the junk shop talking to the gentlemen that work on the outside, I call it the junk shop, but it's been that little flea market I go to. And there's two gentlemen that are best friends, and they bring things all the time. And he was showing me a Griswold pan, and he offered it to me for $40. But it was a waffle. It was a waffle pan. And I was like, well, I don't want that big old waffle thing. I want to, you know. And then I looked at it, and it was selling for about anywhere from $100 to $400, and he was going to let me have it for $40. And I said, why haven't you put it on eBay? And he still has the notion about eBay. And he said, oh, I'm so scared they're going to scam me. And I'm like, this eBay's been up for what, 20 years, right? So then the people that feel that way go to Etsy because they feel like it's more of a trust factor there. I don't know why, but they do. What are your thoughts on that, guys, while I take a sip of my water here? Hey, Jude, thanks for being here. Yes, true. True. There's bargains to be had everywhere, but they're on Etsy too, guys. They are. And Etsy will have its share of counterfeit items too. I have had to report people that I see blatantly selling counterfeit Doonies, because the vintage Doonies are a hot item over there. And, you know, they'll just put vintage Dooney or it's a gift and whatnot. And I've reported them. You can report counterfeit, or I'll ask them, is that this and that? And then they'll realize, oh, you know, that someone's onto them. So I take it off. So it's not this, you know, blessed place that everybody makes it out to be. It's a lucrative platform. It definitely is. And if you are the handy sort, or you are a collector, like this hat that we took a picture with earlier, this is going on Etsy because I know that people are looking for this beautiful thing, this beautiful little hat in red. But I think I've sold hats on eBay as well, and I've hunted for hats on eBay. One year I was on a binge for, how does this go? For sun hats, big old floppy sun hats, kind of a Coachella look, and I went all over eBay and bought some as well. So they're not just for Etsy. But it is a good place for jewelry. Most definitely a good place for jewelry. And I would have to say that some of the pluses there as well are the fees. They're very low. They're a little bit lower than eBay for the closing fee. I think it's more about 8% or something, a little bit less rather than eBay. But you can run your item for 3 months with 20 cents. And then they have an automatic renewal. So you can, as you're putting it in, it gives you the option to run it for another 3 months without having to remember that you listed it 3 months ago and you have to renew it. I don't usually opt for that because I'm just not sure if I think it's going to take that long, and I don't want to have to forget. I really would rather go back and check it out. So, but they do have that option, and that is, you know, a plus for some people. Then you can run your sales as well. They used to have a lot of these kind of like favorites, like they do with Poshmark, where you could like something and they would make little vignettes of your item, and it would get more exposure that way. So let's say someone was looking at cat brooches and they liked yours. They would put it into that, forget what it was called. Maybe Anita knows, because I know she does it as well. She does Etsy as well. So they would put it in that little kind of an exposure for you, and then you could comment, and then, you know, all of that would come into everyone's feed, and it was a lot of fun that way. So it can be a cliquish area that way. There are also societies where you can join this certain society of, let's say, leather work makers and leather workers or woodworkers and that kind of thing. So it can be cliquish, and that's fun, and that's an advantage for a lot of people. So that's a good thing about that as well. I do like that. What I do not like about it is the app. I don't like the app on the phone. It has certain clicks that if you don't see them right away, like when you have to, I think you have to put the price in or something. If you leave something behind, it just doesn't do it. It doesn't actually tell you that you didn't do this. So it's not very friendly that way for me. It's a lot of clicks, and then you have to put all those tags in. I wish it would kind of memorize your tags. I think that Macari kind of memorizes your tags or knows that you're trying to put this and that. And this one does not. It does allow you a lot more, though. It allows you 15 tags. So that's a good thing because you can put in mid-century, 1960s, 1950s, you know, June Cleaver. You can put all those wonderful tags up to 15. So that's a wonderful thing there. But I think their mobile app is very, very hard to use for people that are not used to using mobile apps. And that's what I like to do. I like to do everything on my phone. So if it's not friendly, I tend to, you know, get a little bit lazy about it. But then, like I said, when I do get something really nice like that Jelly Belly, I'm like on it. Let's go. And of course, you can do it on your desktop as well. But I have done everything mobile lately. It's just I'm always on the run. I'm always listing from work, and I just take every advantage that I can to list. Keywords. Well, the keywords would be your hashtags, and the keywords are not very, you're not very constrained. They're pretty generous. You really can put a nice title. You can put a generous description as well. I do advise people to be more descriptive with their items. A friend of mine asked me to look at her store, and I did, and I noticed that she had wonderful aesthetics. Her pictures were wonderful, and she sells clothing as well as jewelry, but she didn't really describe the jewelry as accurately as when one can't touch the jewelry. You want to, know about it. So instead of just saying silver beads and they were actually fluted beads, she could have said, fluted silver beads, or she could have said it's hefty. If it's a sterling piece, substantial, hefty, wide band, all those extras really help, especially with something like that, where I think you're going to, that maybe that buyer expected it to sell quicker because it wasn't a name brand or it was a really pretty piece of jewelry, but it hadn't. And that's all I can think of, because her pictures were so perfect and so nice, and everything looked really uniform and beautiful. A little bit of extra lighting can help too with the jewelry. I do love the outdoors for jewelry. So that's what I advise there. And then I've always been, I think I've told you before, I just love to convey a story when I can and when I have the time. And in my older listings, again, do as I say, not as I do, because sometimes I get lazy and I just throw it up there too with, silver ring, size 7. But I used to say things like 1970s, shrimp ring, a classic of this era, or things like that. And I think it brings your buyer in. They want a little story, especially, if you were to do this hat. Red Hat Society, somebody said. Church lady. Avant-garde. Elaborate headdress. You could just go on and on. Silk flowers, roses. And it's like a weave. It's so pretty. I love it. So you can go on and on like that. I used to do that with my old bags too. I would say things like hippie era. This one probably saw Woodstock or whatnot, and just throw that in there. Why not? Or with the Western wears too. I always title it, Everybody Wants to Be a Cowboy. Be a cowboy for a day, or go west, young man, or something like that. I always like to do that. That's just me. You may not feel that way, but I feel like these types of customers really appreciate that. Could be wrong, but you have to do it your way. If you don't enjoy doing it, then you won't do it, right? Hey, Debbie Mitchell, how are you? Opening day at the races, Kentucky Derby. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yes, that's what I do there, especially. And I've done it on eBay, and I think I've told you before, I've been complimented on the descriptions by the buyers, because it draws them in. Like I've told you before, look in your magazines. Your magazine is not going to say red hat. It's going to say red hat kicked up a notch, wear it to the races, like our friend Debbie just said. All of that can go on your listing when it's allowed, when you have that generous blank, it's allowed. That's what I was just talking about. Yes, Norma, they are. They're really hearkening back to those days of Mad Men, you know, all of that. I think because they disdain them in a lot of ways, and maybe they feel like they can do it better. I don't know. They can do it better without the smoking and the, you know, all of that. I don't know, but it's just, I mean, and what can you say? You know that there's a customer out there. Like I said, there's two kinds of customers. There's the new millennials, the younger generation that really wants to go back, kick it back, as they say, kicking it back to old school, right? And then there's the collector that just wants to remember their youth, remember when they wore this, and collect it. The same thing with those Casio watches. I mean, when I wore a Casio watch that I found in a thrift store, probably I would say 7 years ago. And when I was wearing it, and then they got really, really hot. And I was wearing it. A young man that was waiting on me at one of the thrift stores, he's like, "Man, you're really kicking it back to the 90s, huh? I love it," and so forth. So, you know, that's what they want. And then it became a big thing, and everybody started wearing that. Everybody started doing that. That sweater that was worn in that movie, that kind of Native American style design, I forgot what it's called, that movie, but it set a trend, and everybody was going to Etsy to buy it for $100. You just never know. So keep an eye out on the movies too. They always set the trend. But don't be too disheartened with Etsy. If you do not sell immediately, keep listing. It's a beast like all the others, and they do like fresh merchandise. Every time I start listing something, I sell something else. I listed the Jelly Belly. That sold immediately, but then I sold a brooch that had been up there for a couple of years. It was a cute little, and I did do some footage for my Just Jewelry Just Sold video, so I'll get that out pretty soon. And it was just a little clock brooch, cutest thing. It was set at 11 o'clock. It's a good hour. That's when I have lunch usually, 11 to 12. So, and they had rhinestones, and it even looked like a little nightstand clock. It had little feet and everything. So cute. But it had been up there a while. But as soon as I started listing more things start selling. And the Christmas brooches always sell there. Christmas earrings, troll things. They love the trolls over there, especially the jewelry and things like that. That really sells there. Anything cute, anything new, anything whimsical. Again, your handmade things. Like I said, my knits do well. My daughter was doing, she opened her store a couple of years ago, and she was doing the dream catchers, and she does them very uniquely as well. She does mini ones, and she puts dinosaurs on them. She did like a theme for a baby nursery, and all of that did really well. Now, what I did with these, remember I told you I did a stamp like this, but you have to get the leather stamp and the leather ink, rather, the leather ink that will hold it. And they did well. They sold. So, you know, all that kind of different stuff will do well for you. The only drawback I have to say about it, there's no customer service to speak of that you can call, but there's very little problems there as well. That's the good thing. The customer is usually very straightforward, ready to buy, knows what she wants, and buys it, and we're done. Rarely do I get a complaint. Once, I think I got one or two returns. One was that the rhinestones were a little bit dim on one side of the earring or something, and I failed to tell her that, and so she was upset with that. She didn't return them, but she wanted me to know. So we straightened that out. And then another time was a board game. I sold, I think it was an old Clue for about $50, and then she canceled on me, and I had already shipped it. So she got upset about that, and she wanted to cancel it and so forth and so on. But it just ended there with her contacting me, and I told her I had already shipped it, and she was like, whatever. And then it ended. But if she had, I really wouldn't even know how to handle it, because I really haven't had any other issues with the returns. Hey, Kim, how are you? Darlene, I'm glad you're here. Let me see if anybody's got any thoughts. If you have any questions, guys, highlight it in caps for me, or with my all caps or all question marks. And then we'll move on to that little DIY I wanted to show you that I've been talking about, that my friend Barbara over at my junk store, Honey Hole, was showing. And she had it in her house, because I've been shopping from her house. And I thought it was so cute. And I had her done something similar. And I'm going to show you that. And then how to do it yourself. To display your jewelry, not necessarily to display it. You can store it. You can display it. It's just a lot of fun. I like to look at my jewelry. I have a lot of it in drawers too, but you know, especially now that I'm doing these auctions, I want to have them like ready for me to grab. They were called fascinators. Hey, Jennifer. Key lime kisses. How are you? Guys, it looks like, let me see, 48 people are watching, 18 thumbs up. Hit that thumbs up for me, please. And don't forget to share the video. If you have some social media you can share on. Yes, I love to see it. What is the Jelly Belly you're speaking of? The Jelly Belly that I sold, it's a brooch, guys. Let's say it's usually an animal figural. Like, let's say this little spider, if it was in a clear stone and it's kind of rounded like a belly, and they come in different colors, and I believe Trafari is the one that coined the word, the term Jelly Belly, and they're very collectible. I sold it, so I don't have it here, but I had a cat, and it was about this size. It was really small. Got it in a jewelry jar, and the entire body was like a clear little ball. I don't think I have anything else that I could show you that's similar. And they're very collectible, so people pay up in the hundreds for them. Now, some are, I think she said, my subscriber said that they were supposed to be clear, but they do come in different colors. So if it had been red or something, it's not supposed to be called a Jelly Belly, but people do. But go to eBay or anywhere, Google Jelly Belly brooches, Coro, Trafari, and whatnot, and then hit images, and you'll see them. And they're very, very collectible. Do you sell to people outside of the U.S.? I do indeed. I do indeed, Walter. Thank you for asking. Oh, that's another plus about Etsy. They have a strong international following. And I will talk about shipping next week, guys. Someone has requested that I talk about shipping. They have a strong international following. And that's what I love about Etsy, that I actually stopped selling internationally on eBay for many years till they brought back the global shipping program. Till they brought the global shipping program, because I didn't get burned that many times on eBay. I really sold well, and I sold rock and roll t-shirts to people in the UK for a lot of money, and I did well. But I sold this wonderful backpack to someone in Italy, and they said they didn't have, that it never arrived. And it was very expensive, and eBay said they couldn't do anything about it. You know, I lost the money. And that was a long time ago, but I quit it. And then I still kept selling internationally on Etsy and sold very well. And I like the fact that you can actually pick your shipping. You can have like a shipping spreadsheet basically on the app. So if I'm going to Canada, let's say, it's pretty expensive in Canada. I know it's going to start at $17. I think my postman said anything to Canada from here in Texas starts at $17 regardless of the weight. So I will put, you know, if it's a piece of jewelry, I'll put $20 or $17. And then that way, every time I list something, they'll know, oh, well, internationally, it's, you have your countries, UK, Canada, you know, Italy, whatever, and you can put in your own price ranges for those. Or you can say I'll increment depending on the items that you put together or whatnot. So I do love that about Etsy, but I have sold many things on Etsy internationally. And if you're asking privately, I do. I have so many things to people in Australia, in Canada, in the UK. Of course, we, you know, implement that shipping as applicable for that. But that's a very, very wonderful thing about Etsy. They have a really, really good audience, a high draw internationally. And people buy. They're not afraid to ask. They don't even have to ask. They know they're going to pay some good shipping on it. And that's the problem with what's going on with eBay. If you're on the global shipping thing, you'll sometimes get asked, hey, can you not do the global shipping because it's more expensive for them? But in the long run, if you lose the item, if it gets lost, it's just such a headache. I don't even answer the emails at all. I just say I already have international shipping, global shipping on eBay, and eBay has you ship it to Kentucky, then they are responsible for it. They send it off to where it's going, and you only pay that international that local shipping or domestic shipping, which is, you know, depending on the item, $10 to $12, $4, whatever it may be. But definitely a good draw for Etsy is its international market, most definitely. I think that's about all I was going to say about Etsy. Do give it a try, stick to it. Don't expect to make sales quickly because it is slow, but keep feeding it. Don't put 2 or 3 things in there and then expect to get a sale. It's not going to happen that way. Make your store pretty. Give yourself a little bio so people can know who you are, what kind of things you hunt for, what you do. Go and favorite certain stores. You can make a shop a favorite of yours. They'll make yours a favorite. And instead of sharing your items like you do on Poshmark, they can like an item. They can also put those little vignettes of favorites. I forget what they're called. Anita, did you tell us what it was called? I forgot. Or if they even still have that. But a lot of things have changed on Etsy since I started too. So be sure and keep abreast of that. There's also a dashboard where you can go and see your stats. You can see whether you got traffic from Google or YouTube and whatnot. Very, very wonderful information there. I like that a lot about Etsy. And so that's a really good place for you to gauge how you're doing on Etsy, is to go to that dashboard and look at how you're doing. That way you can also share directly like you do for eBay. You can share directly to Pinterest and Instagram. Once you have put your item up, you can click those share buttons. And I love that. People have Etsy, what do you call it? Etsy, what is it called on Instagram? I forgot. The pins on Instagram. There's some that are dedicated to Etsy. I have one called Etsy Excellence. Okay, now to the DIY, guys. Let's start. I walked into that lady's house and I saw her do this, and I had already seen a item at Goodwill that was pre-made, but it was really heavy, and I left it. I said, I'm going to make one at home. So I did this with this picture of the Virgin Mary that I had bought years ago, about 2 years ago, and it's not finished. It's not a finished picture. So there's a couple of errors, like the hands are they need a little bit more strokes. So I put pictures, let me take off some of these current pictures so I don't expose my grandchildren without permission. And I put colorful yarn. I just rolled it around with like 2 or 3 strands here. That's a picture of me when I was in high school at the top. There's me and my grandchild, and I used it for pictures. So I have 3 bands, no, 3, 5 or 6, but three in here to give it strength. I rolled it 3 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I did 5 rows, and this is where I pinned pictures. And I use these really cute decorative pins that I had got this to do my classroom, pin up words and things like that around my classroom. And they're really pretty black little pins. So I got that, and that's hanging over there by my husband's side of the bed, and he has it full of my grandkids' pictures. So then I walk into that lady's house, and she has an artist that she's supporting by trying to sell his paintings. So she says she has 71 of them. She has 71 pictures of, and she has like 10 right in the front, but she used one of them to do jewelry. And she didn't do it as I did here. I did one kind of, well, she did it with twine, right? And she put it on that little oil. And it's easy to do these with the ones that are, just on canvas. I got this for $4. Still got the price on it. Still got $4 on here. I had it forever. I had it in my bathroom for the longest time, but for demonstration purposes, we did it today. And I have a necklace tag there. These are much smaller pins. I didn't realize these were so small. And I got these the other day at the dollar store. The little pins. They were in a little package. Here they are. Oh, we found a fabulous dollar store, guys. It's an Asian. So these are all little pins in there. And that's what's there. So there's a necklace. There's a card there. There's these hoops that really don't do well with those earring holders because they kind of like latch. So I latched them together and pinned them there. And then these are clip-on earrings there. And then this is just a card that came with this ring that I just bought. It says Zuni, Navajo, and whatnot. But I put it there to show you how easy you can make your own cards, dangle your earrings, and even put your posts. Now, you can even put a picture frame, which I did as well. And this frame I've been wanting to do for a while. I was going to do this one as a tray with a velvet lining to lay down for my brooches, and I can still do it. And I found this felt also at the dollar store yesterday, and I just put it all around it. This was just tacked on, so I took off the little nails. Took it off. I put it up, tried to use a neutral. I mean, I could have put something a lot prettier, right? But I tried to use a neutral background, and I did the same thing with the yarn. This is silver metallic yarn. I just wanted to put a pretty yarn, but you can put ribbon, you can put whatever. And I have a lot of yarn. So I dangled the earrings there. This is what she did. She had her cards like this. So I said, oh, that's great. So this is great for people who have, you know, your antique booths, or when you have a garage sale. And as I said, I was going to turn it into a tray flat for brooches. And I'm still making one. My husband started one for me that I'm going to put foam in so that I can put the post type of earrings, and I'll just be able to pierce them in. So yeah, let me show you the back. I glued it first, and then I was probably going to stay with the glue. I did some, so you can see the glue back there. And then because we couldn't find our staple gun, but I got my husband busy to go find that staple gun, and he stapled the frame back together the way it was originally after I put all that together. So I did that, and then I bought another pegboard at the dollar store, at the same wonderful dollar store, that I'm going to do, and I want to do this one again. Probably this one, actually, this is a cork board, so this one already has where I'll be able to pin it. But I'm thinking of getting another one that's a better quality that I will be able to take apart, and I'm going to put this lovely raw satin under it, and this one I will do as a tray. And I also saw them do this at the thrift store the other day. So this is backwards, but I kind of like this side better. And then here's the brown raw silk, and it'll be under the frame. We're going to take it apart. We're going to staple it back together, and we can do it for brooches. And if I didn't have cork, I would add that sponge, and that'll be great for posts or for brooches, for post earrings or for brooches. But yeah, that's what we've been doing. I just think it's really pretty. I saw one at the thrift store the other day where they used a really narrow one, and they lined it with satin like that, or silk. So that's it there. I like this because it's easy. You don't have to take apart frames. And, you know, you can get these little oil paintings for $2, $3, and you can still kind of see it. I think it's cute. So that's it. And you don't even need these cards, but if you do have cards, or you can do the little business card folded, any kind of card really, and they do sell these cards on Amazon and everything. And then you can put the posts in there. Voila. So that's it, guys. That was my DIY. And then, of course, I do like to do brooches on my pretty little pillows too. These stay on my sofa that, you know, I mean, I've put them here because I've been doing the auction. I like to have the brooches close by. But who sits in that room? Nobody. Nobody even goes in that room. They're just there looking pretty. I'll switch them around. I'll sell them. I'll list them. You know, that kind of thing. I have some mini ones too. And then these little things came with, I don't have them. Purses are also good for your brooches. Things like that. Oh, they came with little coasters. So these are great to put as well. Thrown around with your little brooches or pair of earrings. Yeah. And that is it, guys. I think that's all I have, unless you have some questions. Thank you for being here, Kelly and Perla. On a decorative bulletin board. Yeah. Yeah, well, that cork board, I think, will work well for my posts. I'm really liking that one for posts as well. I know. The staple gun. I'm scared of those staple guns. I hate them. Let me see. Susan, you're so funny. Guys, I hope you put the thumbs up. 24 thumbs up so far. 50 people still here. Be sure and do that. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I will talk to you guys next week. I have a few jewelry jars to do, and hopefully we can get together for that, for a jewelry jar video. I'm going to go help Miss Makeup Zombie over at her showcase sale today at 4 p.m. Central, and I may be late already, but we shall see. You guys have a wonderful week, okay? Lots of sales to everyone. Lots of health and happiness out there, all right? And I'll see you soon.